Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back. I'm Will Dragon and this is Suzerain, where we are the president of Swordland and we are trying to get our country out of huge amounts of debt. VAT impact on small businesses. I believe we read most of this at the end of the last session. The special zone has been abolished. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's been one of my goals for near enough the whole game to abolish that damn special zone. And it's happened. Now in the news, unity with Bergia. Yeah, damn right. To abolish the special zone has happened. Commission to ensure competition and fair trade. VAT passage, a necessary step, but a painful one. Special zone abolished. An assault on people's pockets, just maybe. An illusion of progress, the radical, of course, pretty much hate us. Circling over Stoleport, and VAT enactment, boost for treasury, blow for public opinion. So, now I'm very excited with this, because we now have the trade deal with Valgsland. The National Business Council of Lacoven has expressed concerns about the adverse effects of the value-added tax on consumer spreading. Yeah, I agree with you. And the trade talks with Lesbia. Now, the question is, which one do I want to do first? I am hoping to generate minimum 3 budget points. I mean, I'm hopeful to go to 5 or 6 if I'm honest, but that's... I'm going right out there, but I'm hoping for 3 minimum. I'm going to go Lesbia. I'm scared of Valgsland. I think they're going to potentially want something to do with Angsland and the war. So, there is that. So let's trade talks with the Prime Minister of Lesbia. The maroon train slowly started to move. The train had been in service for many years. It had 9 locomotives with special quarters and an office. As the name implied, it was painted bright maroon. Among camera flashes and cheers, we departed from Holsort Central train station. Our destination was Perla, the capital of Lesbia. The historic route we were using was also called the Southern Express. We passed through the Lesbian mountain range to the lowlands, with a short stop at the beautiful Sierra Nueva, where Lesbian security forces joined us. Looking outside the window, the difference in wealth between Valgun and Sierra Nueva was extraordinary. I heard a knock on the door to my office on the train, and Simon entered. Mr. President. Simon, have a seat. He sat down on a chair in front of my desk. I wanted to have a quick chat about Prime Minister Alvarez and give you a heads up. There have been some rumors about his demeanor in public appearances. Go on. He is known to have met with other state leaders whilst intoxicated on various occasions. Some even call him an alcoholic. Is this something that could affect the trade deal? Honestly, I don't know. He handed me a newspaper. The headline was Circling Over Stoleport. This happened just yesterday. Apparently he was so drunk that he couldn't get off the plane on a diplomatic visit. After this incident, some say he is unfit to serve, but I don't believe that at all. Circling over Valgsland. What? Can I go to Lesbia? Why is that? Although his presidency is riddled with these kinds of incidents, I also heard that he is a shrewd man. Thanks for giving me a heads up. I am sure we will be fine, Mr. President. We are almost at Perla. I will return to my cabin now. I'll see you when we arrive. A few minutes later, with a long whistle, our train came to a stop. I waved to the crowd from the window. The crowds of reporters that flocked over were pushed away by the Lesbian security guards. We made our way to our cars and the convoy began its short trip to the Yellow House. From the Maroon House to the Yellow House. The Yellow House was situated at the very center of Perla, in the middle of a circular park that was off limits to regular citizens. The park was full of roses on small patches. The convoy came to a stop and I made my way to the entrance. The assistants directed me to a room to wait for Prime Minister Alvarez. I guess I'll wait. I sat in the exquisite room and looked up at the golden chandeliers. After 10 minutes, there was still no sign of Prime Minister Alvarez. It was almost time for our meeting. My chair started to feel uncomfortable. I stood up and walked around to look at the various items in the room. A beautiful golden teapot piqued my interest. Inspected the teapot. While I was touching it, the handle broke off. I looked around. Thankfully, no one was in the room. Leave the broken handle next to the teapot. The door opened and Patricio Alvarez entered. Although I knew he was one of the youngest state leaders in the world, I was still surprised by how boyish he looked. At his age, he was leading one of the strongest countries in Eastern Mocopa. He was holding his head like he had a headache, and he was stumbling. Upon seeing me, he immediately composed himself. We shook hands. He gestured towards the 2 couches and we sat down face to face. President Rain, welcome to Perla. Have a seat. I hear a lot about your successes, Mr. Alvarez. Thank you, Mr. Rain. That is very kind of you. I wish I could say the same about you. Would have at least some amount of social aptitude. What the hell does that mean? Don't take my kindness for granted. No need to argue, right? We have just met. Exactly. We don't need to waste any time. I smelled the strong odor of alcohol. Don't say anything. Let's begin then. So, you are here for the trade deal. What was it about again? Can you remind me? Swordish tungsten. Ah, yes, right. Sorry, I have just been very busy lately. You know, being a president makes you pretty busy. So, I don't have any issues with this deal. I think this deal would contribute nicely to the relationship between Lesbia and Swordland, despite a lack of ideological alignments. I will sign the executive order. That is excellent news. I'm glad we are on the same page. He looked at the clock. I'm afraid I have to leave now to attend to other matters. Thank you for your visit. Thank you for having me. Have a good day, Mr. Rain. On his way to the door, he suddenly turned around. Before I forget, you owe me a teapot. He smiled and left the room. Tungsten trade with Lesbia, free trade zone, trade initiative, trade with Lesbia. Okay, so we didn't actually get any government budget, but policies, we have a trade initiative. Spearheaded by the Republic of Swordland, represents a strategic foreign policy move aimed at establishing and strengthening economic partnerships within the region. Through this initiative, Swordland seeks to foster closer economic ties, facilitate trade liberalization, and enhance cooperation on key economic issues such as market access. The Republic of Swordland and the Republic of Lesbia have entered into a bilateral agreement that permits the exchange of capital, goods, and services. Tungsten trade with Lesbia, free trade zone with Lesbia. Alright, well that's gotta help things. Swordland and Lesbia signed new trade agreements. Swordland's government has officially signed a new economic partnership deal with Lesbia, marking an important moment as the most major deal President Rain had finalized so far. Was signed by President Rain and Prime Minister Alvarez in Perla yesterday. The deal is tailored to benefit both economies, with big benefits to Swordish and Lesbian businesses. It also includes a strong commitment from Lesbia to support Swordland with Lesbian capital. This signing marks a new period of close relations between Swordland and Lesbia, which will see two like-minded democracies work together. Alright, then let's go on to our second trade deal. I was in my office preparing my briefcase for the trip ahead to Helm in Houtland to discuss the trade deal. I heard two knocks and I turned around to see David. He was panting heavily. Mr. President, is something wrong? I have just received a communication from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Valgsland about our trade deal. Because of our trade deal with Lesbia, they have decided to cancel the negotiations. Ah, what? Is there any way we can still get them on the table? Unfortunately not. It seems like the trade deal with Valgsland fell. I started unpacking my briefcase. That's not all, Mr. President. Not going to like this, am I? He handed me a document with the emblem of the Ministry of Economy of Valgsland on it. Valgsland has put tariffs on our trade in retaliation. They are trying to economically weaken us. Looks like we have made an adversary. Put down the document and slammed the table. Ah, man, I didn't realize this. I was worried that a little bit there might be a one or the other deal. But honestly, I was expecting to have been told beforehand if that was a little bit of the case. Because, you know. Oh, Mr. President, by the way, this is your Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Economy. If we strike a deal with one, the other one may back out and move away from us. Because they're both quite bitter about these things. You know, I don't know, something along those lines. Private meeting with Peter Vectorn. Although we do, hang on, news. This is going to be bad. Valgsland cancels meeting. That's rather disappointing, wouldn't you say? Our growth is not quite as growthy as it was. It was a dark, chilly evening when Peter called and asked if we could meet. He gave no details. All he said was that it was important. He drove alone through Holsword suburbs until I reached the meeting point he named, 147 Warwick Avenue, number 26. Our old campaign headquarters, untouched since the night of the election. This was where everything began. I made my way up the dusty staircase of the office building. The light in the second floor hallway was out, so I used a cigarette lighter to find my way to the wooden door marked 26. I pulled on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The heavy door had always been a pain to open. Coming. Peter pushed on the door with all his weight. It made a screeching sound as it opened. Without further ado, I bid you welcome to this grand nostalgia trip, hosted by yours truly, Peter Vecton. He made an exaggerated bow. The dust from the open door was still settling down. Feeling sentimental yet? Haven't been to this place in ages. I miss it sometimes, even that damn door. Come over here, remember this? He walked over to his old desk and pointed to the gramophone that had annoyed our neighbors and kept us company for so many late nights. Peter flipped the switch and it filled the room with swing music from the 20s. I'll be damned, it still works. I thought this office was sold off. No, I've been paying the rent. Too many memories attached to this place just to sell it. And you know, we might use it again soon. He put his hand under his desk and brought out a bottle. He took a swig out of it, then passed the bottle to me. I will drink. That's my boy. Peter snapped his fingers to the music while going through the items in the room. It looked virtually unchanged since election night. Come on, have a look around, see if it doesn't bring back memories. Check your old desk drawers. Inside there were a few odd coins, pencils, and sheets of paper. Underneath them, something caught my eye. It was a photograph of me and Monica, sitting under a tree. This must have been 10, maybe 15 years ago. We looked so young and so happy. Monica would love to see this. Nice find, look at that baby Anton. You didn't even have your iconic look. Take the photograph. Look for the storage boxes. I walked over to the tower of storage boxes and opened one of them. One of the storage boxes I found a heavy object wrapped safely. I unwrapped it. It was an emerald-colored statue of a goat, the symbol of Swordland. I remember that this was a gift from Brenda, one of the 53 election campaign assistants. It would look good on my desk in the palace. Always sucking up to you, and where did it get her? Seriously, where? I have no idea where she ended up. I will take the statue. Go through the records next to the gramophone. Found one of my favorite albums ever, Mountains by Janet Gers. A set of plaintive folk songs that made me yearn for the countryside whenever I heard it. What a classic. You should mail that to Frank so he can learn what real music is. Take the record. Enough going through old stuff, let's talk. Yes, yes, all in good time. He gestured to the bottle he had in his hand. No, I'm good. He shrugged, took a very big gulp of the bottle, and staggered to the side afterwards. I know you, Peter. What are you hiding? Nothing, let's go up to the roof. The view was always amazing from there. We went up the stairs to the roof. The view was mesmerizing. The buildings of Holsword twinkled below us, while the stairs shone bright in the sky. The stars, sorry. We sat and leaned back against the wall, taking it all in. Right as I was starting to get up, I heard sobbing sound. I turned to Peter and saw tears streaming down his cheeks. Not seen a night sky beautiful enough to make Peter Vecton cry. He wiped the tears away and laughed. I messed up, Anton. I messed up big time. Evelyn's leaving me. She wants a divorce. What the hell did you do? I've been sleeping with Livia Suno. Who is my secretary? You've been what? I know she's your secretary, I'm so sorry. It's just Evelyn hasn't been the same since she lost her job, and Livia was giving me sultry looks from the day I hired her. You were away, I was drunk, one thing led to another. But she's more than just a pretty girl, Anton. She's smart and kind, and I think we really connected. Don't tell me you're going to run off with her. No, we're ending things. I told her it's too unprofessional and I want Evelyn back. Who else knows besides me and the three of you? Nobody, I swear. There was an edge of desperation in Peter's voice. He took another drink. How many years have we known each other? How many scrapes have we gotten ourselves out of? I can handle this myself. Just trust me and don't bring anyone else into this. I turned to face my friend and vice president. The habits that had gotten him dubbed the bad boy of swordish politics when we were young were no longer so charming coming from a middle-aged man. Yet he was still a capable politician, and I couldn't ignore our long-standing history. I will be blunt. Yes, Anton, I understand. Thank you so much. Anything for my best friend. Without waiting for his reaction, I left the rooftop alone and made my way downstairs. On my way out, I grabbed my belongings and took one last look back at the office. It had been home to some happy memories for sure, but this visit had permanently cured me of any nostalgia. As soon as I arrived home, I headed up to my study, sat down and stared at the telephone. Trust Peter and call no one. I headed to the bedroom without calling anyone. Peter and I would be able to handle this between ourselves. I slipped into bed, careful not to disturb my sleeping wife. I would tell her the news about Peter and Evelyn tomorrow. I hoped it wouldn't upset her too much. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Collection item unlocked, situation updated. Situation. Recent diplomatic efforts by Swordland have led to the successful signing of a comprehensive trade deal with a significant trade partner, which has resulted in a noticeable recovery of trade volume. This has had a positive impact on the economy, as the increased trade has led to the creation of new jobs and an overall boost in economic activity. Good! Finally, a good news economic story. We have something off the map? Oh no, sorry, yeah, we have two stories off the map. The NBC issued a critical warning about the massive government budget deficit which occurred in the third year of the administration. Leadership figures from the private and state sectors brought forward complaints that the country could head towards a serious debt crisis if the situation is left unchecked. I'm trying. I was genuinely hoping that the trade deal would give me a bit of government budget. The CSP has issued a strong condemnation following the recent submarine attack on a cargo ship off the coast of Marcanisa. Near northeast Rumburg, the incident involving a Rumburg submarine erroneously targeting a cargo vessel belonging to United Contana has raised serious concerns about maritime safety and the need for improved communication channels. And then over in Holsword, we have start of the day at the palace. I don't like how incongruous. I'm sorry, I don't quite know the word, but I just don't like how vague that is, basically. It was early in the morning after my talk with Peter. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon. I couldn't sleep, so I decided I might as well head to the palace early and get some uninterrupted work done. The Maroon Palace was empty save for a few cleaning staff. I entered my office and was shocked to see Lucian already there, waiting for me. Mr. President, good. I was hoping you'd be early. What's going on? I have a sensitive matter to discuss. I have a very good reason to believe your Vice President and your Secretary are engaging in illicit relations. Yes, he told me. It's over now. Lucian gave me a wounded look. You knew and you didn't come to me with this information. You only told me yesterday. I was going to come to you first thing today. Well, I don't hesitate to call straight away next time. On its own, given Mr. Vecton's established reputation as something of a playboy, the affair is unlikely to cause much damage. However, a more troubling possibility has been brought to light. For some time now, I have privately suspected the presence of an intelligence leak coming from within the Maroon Palace. I believe Miss Suno is our mole. She has been using her relationship with Mr. Vecton to gather information. I'm sorry, didn't I call this like 10 episodes ago? Tell me more. I knew she was trying. She always seems to walk into the middle of my meetings. I can do better than that, I'll show you. Lucian reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an audio tape and fed it into the reel-to-reel machine on my desk. This was recorded in the palace at 1809 on the second day of your trade visit to Lesbia. I pressed play and I heard Peter and Livia's voices. You're sure everyone's gone for the day? Relax, Liv, nobody's working that hard with Anton off in Lesbia. Livia giggled, I heard the sound of kissing, then of drinks being poured. I'm glad you stayed behind. Did he tell you how it's going over there? Do you think there's a chance they'll form an alliance? No, doesn't seem like it. We'll have to find other alternatives if we're going to keep Rumburg at bay. Seems like we've still got a shot with the superpowers at least. We've opened 2 new lines of communication with Ventry City and Kiao. Just exploratory talks at this point, but they might lead to something deeper. And speaking of something deeper, Miss Suno, Lucian grimaced and switched off the tape. And then what happened? You don't need to hear the rest of it. The important question is, why so much curiosity about these particular alliances? Not because they could strengthen us against Rumburg. And that's not all. I found her resume on file, and there's a year-long gap between her finishing secretary school and beginning her career. Normally this would have been looked into, but Miss Suno was hired before a background check could be completed by one Peter Vecton. Just then, there was a knock on the door, and Livia opened it cautiously. Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Glad. I didn't realize you'd be in so early. Can I get you some coffee? Wait for Lucian to say something. Please have a seat, Miss Suno. Livia sat. She looked puzzled. Is something the matter? Enough pretending. Your secret is out. I'm not sure what you're talking about. You know perfectly well. Livia buried her face in her hands. I'm so sorry, Mr. President. I was foolish, and Peter was so nice to me. But it's over now. Nobody ever needs to know. That's not what the President means, Miss Suno. We're referring to you being an intelligence agent for Rumberg. Livia sat upright. She looked shocked. Pardon me, Mr. Glad, but are you feeling all right? He's fine. What do you have to say for yourself? I understand if you don't want me to keep my job, why smear me with outlandish accusations? Miss Suno, indulge me for a moment. What were you doing in the year 1951? You must know I was working as a cigarette girl at Porto's. It's a Lackavan saloon. I was saving up so I could afford my own place in Hullsword. Check the proprietor's... Here's the proprietor's number if you need to double check. She scribbled a telephone number on a piece of paper. Lucian snatched it up. So any questions about what I do? To tell the truth, Mr. Rain, I was hoping to run for office myself someday. I want to make a real difference in the world, like Miss Morgner and Miss Walder. But I guess I messed that up by getting involved with Peter. Now they're all just going to say I slept my way to the top. And you're questioning Peter about Swordland's potential alliances? I told you Wait, how do you know about that? There was a loud pounding on the door. Peter barged in without waiting for an answer. He was unshaven and wore the same clothes as the night before. I came as soon as I heard the three of you were in here. Anton, what the hell are you doing? I told you I had this under control. Sorry, Lucian already found out. Peter took a seat on the far end of the sofa. He looked over at Livia and noticed her troubled expression. God, why involve her? This is my mess. She did nothing wrong. There's a small chance she could be a spy. I have reason to believe she's been relaying information to Rumberg, information that you leaked to her in your carelessness. Lucian rewound his tape and played it again. As Peter listened, his eyes widened in disbelief. Lucian, you rat. You've been bugging my office. I'm sure there's an explanation for this. Both Peter and Livia were glaring at Lucian now. He looked unrepentant. I had noticed the Vice President's behavior becoming increasingly erratic and unprofessional over the past months. I wanted to get to the root of the cause. So you wiretapped your own goddamn colleague, and for what? Have you been getting off on this, you pervert? Certainly not. I believe that along with certain gaps in Miss Suno's resume, this tape makes a compelling case to investigate the Secretary for espionage. Whether or not the investigation yields positive results, Mr. Vectorn ought to be held accountable for his willingness to divulge such sensitive information. He ought to stand trial, or at the very least, resign. If I may, Mr. President, I've been paying attention to what goes on in the palace, not because I'm some sort of agent, but out of genuine interest. Hard as that may be for you to believe, Mr. Glad. She scowled at Lucian, then turned back to me. And from what I've seen, this man has been attempting to undermine your Vice President at every turn, perhaps with the goal of replacing Peter himself. Lucian's been nothing but loyal. Loyal to you, it's true, he never could stand me. My personal misgivings about Mr. Vectorn aside, I would never do anything to harm this administration. Mr. Vectorn, on the other hand, has at best committed adultery and at worst delivered state secrets straight into the enemy hands. Who could I believe? Can I speak to you alone for a moment? Peter and Livia exchanged worried glances before exiting my office. What are you going to do, Mr. President? You're the strategist here, not me. You make the call. I already told you what we should do, sir. Investigate Miss Suno. Let's do it. I appreciate your trust in me, and Mr. Vectorn, what would you do about his willingness to compromise Swordland's security at the drop of a pencil skirt? I'll decide that once we have... I'll settle that with him personally. Very well, just keep in mind you made him to shoulder the blame for this. Lucian adjusted his tie. I'll apologize to Miss Suno and tell her this has all been a misunderstanding. We can't have her running away during the investigation. No, I'll do it myself. Very well, sir. Lucian gave a slight bow as he left the office. I sat by myself for a while, wondering what exactly I had set in motion. I know she's a spy. I called that 10 episodes ago. She's 100%. Political briefing meeting, results of the affair scandal. Several days had passed since I ordered the investigation into my secretary. Both Peter and Livia had been acting unnaturally nice to me, believing I'd let them off the hook for the affair. They seemed to be avoiding each other in the hallways, though. I was just settling in behind my desk when Lucian knocked on my door. "Sir, a moment of your time." Of course. Lucian entered my office and closed the door behind him. Our security team traveled to Lakavan to speak to the owners of the pub Miss Suno named. They confirmed that one Livia Suno had worked there. The description of her did not match that of your secretary. However, it did match that of an unidentified corpse washed up in Lenkirk Bay 2 months before your inauguration. That was Livia Suno, who's the woman working for me. Further investigation by our operatives in Rumburg matched Miss Suno's description to a woman named Ilana Vance, last seen graduating from Krim's Rad Political Sciences Institution. Recent coded transmissions from Rumburg have mentioned a deeply embedded covert agent named Vance, but our intelligence always assumed it was a man. How could we have missed all this? As mentioned, Miss Suno was hired without a background check. It's possible this all could have been avoided had any of Mr. Vecton's blood flow been directed to his brain when he selected her. But none of that can be helped now. The question is, what are you going to do, sir? What do you think I should do? The standard procedure would be to try Miss Suno for espionage. If we do so, it's only a matter of time before the media pieces together what happened. What if there were no trial? Then you'd what exactly? Knowingly let her return to Rumburg? What would damage us even further if the truth got out? You must remain in control of the narrative, Mr. President, starting by letting Peter Vecton take the fall. I know his actions were problematic. Problematic is an understatement. Mr. Vecton put you in danger by failing to order a background check on your closest personal staff. He betrayed your confidence to a woman whom he was committing adultery. Anton, would you do the same to your so-called best friend? No, I wouldn't. I am a chief strategist. I advise you on what I believe is the best strategy, but of course the ultimate decision is yours. Peter will be our scapegoat. I shall write a statement for you to read at the press conference. I'll leave you to handle Miss Vance. Thank you. Lucian nodded and walked out. I called Card Grazer from my desk and explained the situation. After a few minutes, I rang for Livia. She entered my office. Is there something you need, Mr. President? Please, sit down. Keep her here as long as possible. A barely perceptible flash of fear crossed her face. She sat. Why did you call me in here, sir? I nodded toward my office doorway. Carl Greiser was standing there along with 2 of his guards blocking the entrance. Ilana Vance, you are under arrest on suspicion of espionage. Please come with me. Her eyes darted around the room. What the hell is going on, Mr. President? Have you let Lucian get to your head? I thought you were smarter than that. You thought I wouldn't trust my closest advisor? You're the stupid one. Carl's men grabbed her arms and began dragging her out. No, you can't do this to me. Peter, hearing her cries, rushed out of his office. Liv, what the hell? Anton, what's going on? Livia, tell Peter who you really are. I won't say another word without a lawyer present. She looked at Peter square in the eye. Except this. You're a saddled drunk and a lousy lay. Honestly, if I were a Rumburg spy, I'd barely have to do a thing. You two have Swordland ripe for the taking. She straightened up, ran a hand through her curls, and allowed Carl to lead her away. Peter sank to the floor in front of me. Anton, what the hell just happened? Come to my office, you're making a scene out here. Once Peter was in my office, I shut the door and explained everything Lucian had told me about Livia. And you believed him? Well, better safe than sorry, especially after what she called me. At least we finally have this ordeal behind us. Let's get on with running the country, shall we? I have something to tell you. I want you to resign. Peter looked up at me. His expression was numb. I guess I deserve this, don't I? Yes, your philandering put us all in danger. He exhaled slowly. I could see tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Anton. I was never cut out for this job. It was fun while it lasted. Sure was, old buddy. You'll have some time before the news goes public. I suggest you get your affairs in order. I get the message, but first, he grabbed the bottle of Earl Maroon 30-year-old from the shelf behind my desk. To new beginnings. He drained a third of the bottle in one long swing, then got to his feet and unsteadily made his way to the door. I knew this was for the best, but I hoped my friend would be alright. I'm thinking he's probably not going to be alright. I'm thinking this is bad times. National security breached. Yep, that happened. And it's annoying because I feel like I could have done nothing about that. Like, I told you, I suspected her 10 episodes ago. She was a spy. Straight up. Like, straight up, she was... hands... Like, there was no question about it whatsoever. Political briefing meeting. Let's just do this meeting. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows as Lucian and I entered the White Room. I sat down. Lucian remained standing. I'm afraid I won't be able to join you for your meeting today, sir. The business surrounding the Livia Suno affair is taking up all of my time at the moment. He dropped a thick folder in front of me. I was hoping to go over the day's agenda with you before your cabinet members began arriving, but duty calls. He walked out. I took a look at the folder in front of me, then at the coffee carafe in the corner of the room. I walked over and poured myself a cup. I wondered when my new secretary would start work. Internal affairs was first on the list of items. Lilius and Nia, along with their close staff, joined me around the table. Lilius cast an eye around the room. No new secretary yet. I hope this means Miss Suno's replacement is getting an extremely thorough background check. Needless to say, such an egregious breach of security should be met with harsh consequences, but you know that already. Shall we begin? Yes, please do. I want to congratulate you again on your historic accomplishment for Bloods and Swordland. Thank you for approving my plans for the revocation of the special zone. The internal security structure of Bergia has already been dismantled. Part of the local forces will be integrated into the Swordish police force. The governor position has been abolished. In the next election, each town will elect its own mayor, as in the rest of Swordland. And now you, Miss Graff, have complete control over the region's security. As I should, Miss Morgna. I am the Ministry of the Interior, after all. In any case, now that the governor is gone, this will hopefully prove to be a huge step for Bludish rights in the region. Of course, the Unified Language Act is creating a lot of resentment with the Bludish communities, who want to choose their own language in education. This is certainly a point of contention. She sighed. What are you trying to say, Miss Morgna? Nothing, Mr. President. I am reporting on the current situation. We'll keep it brief. I think that will be all for our internal affairs update. See you later, Mr. President. They took their entourage and left the room. Mr. President, where's the Vice President today? I don't know. Have you seen him? Not lately. Simon's expression remained unchanged as he sat down to face me. I just wanted to provide you with a few updates on the economy. You may have noticed that the government budget is in need of a boost. My ministry is therefore working on a bill that will increase the tax on tobacco products from 10 to 30%. A similar bill is being drafted to introduce a 20% tax on alcohol. In addition to bringing in needed revenue, the new laws would curb excessive drinking and smoking in Swordland. Good question. The tax wouldn't apply to products designated for export, which would mitigate the damage somewhat. Ordinarily, I advise against this kind of thing, but with our budget dipping into the red, any measure that would reverse our deficit is worth considering. Thankfully, tourism to Swordland is on the rise, so we can expect to see a healthy stream of income there. Our investment in cultural preservation paid off, it seems. That's good news, thanks for telling me. I never quite understood why anyone would want to vacation in Swordland when Lesbia is right there, but I suppose our country has a certain charm. There was a knock on the door. Gus Manga strolled in and grabbed a seat. Mr. President, Simon. Some excitement around the palace lately, I've heard. That's how it is around here. New adventurer. Don't worry about it, Gus. Focus on your job. I'm sure you're handling it very well. Anyway, you both know how revitalizing the Groony region has always been in my pet project of sorts. Well, thanks to the efforts of my ministry and the funding allocated by the president, Groony is looking stable these days. Stable, that's it. Gus shrugged. Groony being that bottom corner, yep. It's far from the massive surge in economic growth that I had hoped to see, but I still believe the area has a wealth of untapped potential. If we seize every possible opportunity to invest in Groony now, we could still see positive results within our term. Your time in office would be better spent focusing on other regions. Gus gritted his teeth. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, Mr. President. If Grooney is neglected, of course it will fail. Try to calm down, Gus. The President makes decisions on behalf of the entire country, not only your home region. The door to the White Room opened slowly, and Devitt made his way in. Oh, hello, gentlemen. I'm early again, aren't I? Not to worry, Mr. Weesey. We've just about wrapped things up. Simon and Gus rose from their seats and left the room. After the door closed, Devitt regarded me for a second. His blue eyes seemed to see right through me. My ministry has notified about the Rumbergian infiltrator. This is a very delicate situation, Anton. I understand. Please understand. Prior to this revelation, our diplomatic efforts with Rumberg had been met with an equally diplomatic response. In fact, there were indications that the kingdom would soon be ready to begin peace talks. An incident such as this might serve as a tipping point. Place too much blame on Rumberg and we may lose our chance at reconciliation. Last thing we want is a war on our hands. A compromise in the name of the greater good may spare countless lives. I'll leave you to it, Anton. I know you've got a lot on your plate. It was a pleasure, David. And that's my briefing. Growth just dropped off. I definitely saw that happen. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to leave it there. We have a new story down here. High economic synergy between Grooney and Bergia. Love that. Love that very much. We have press release for the affair scandal. That'll be fun. And we have 2 news stories, which are probably about the affair scandal already, because the news seems to know everything before I do. And so on that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed the stream. And until we see you again, as per always, I hope that you will stay safe, happy, and healthy.